Hi. In case you don't know me, I'll let you know my name is Guy Harris, and my specialty is workplace conflict resolution, team dynamics, and leadership development. Now, one of the things I often get asked when I'm leading a workshop is, Guy, you teach a lot of techniques. You teach a lot of things like the DISC model of human behavior. You teach things like assertive communication techniques. You teach things like the CARD model for understanding team dynamics, which I learned from my good friend Kevin Eikenberry. Teach things like workplace conflict resolution process. And while I'm teaching these techniques, one of the things that I get asked is, Guy, do you think you apply every technique all the time? Or will this technique work in every situation? And really the answer to both those questions is no. No technique works all of the time. Techniques are like tools. What I suggest is that people look for the underlying principle for why a technique works and learn to apply that principle in many different situations. Now, learning the techniques in terms of rote memorization, that kind of thing, can be helpful because it means you have to figure things out a lot less. But the real key important point is learn the principle and learn to apply it in as many different situations as you can. A mentor of mine once told me this. He said, Guy, remember that techniques are many, principles are few. Techniques often vary, and principles never do. So principles will always be the same from situation to situation, regardless of what's going on. So I learned to apply the principles to get results. Here's an example. I really like to work with wood and do things with tools. I have a fairly good tool collection. As a result, I have many different hammers. For example, I have my 14-ounce light construction hammer. It could be used for trim work, assembly, driving moderate-sized nails. Probably not going to do heavy carpentry with it, but it's pretty good for kind of general around the house, putting the cabinet together type work. I have my 2-pound sledgehammer. I can use it in the yard to drive a stake in the ground. I can use it behind a piece of wood to act as an absorber to pick up the energy so it doesn't bounce around when I'm driving a nail. A lot of different good uses for this. Probably not going to use it for carpentry work. And then I have my rubber mallet. Very light, pretty soft head. It's good for assembling things. Now, each of the hammers has a specific use, specific application. And the principle that they work under is the same, really, is that swinging a mass at the end of a head gives you more force, or you can use it to absorb force. Well, that principle is always the same, regardless of the hammer I use, but I'm not going to use my sledgehammer to put a cabinet together. I'm going to dent the wood and damage it. I'm not going to use my rubber mallet to drive a stake on the ground. It's just going to bounce off the head. There's nothing wrong with the principle. There's nothing wrong with the tool itself. It's the fact that I used it in a situation where it didn't apply. So here's my suggestion to people growing in their leadership and supervisory skills. Do everything you can to get as many tools in your toolbox as you can. Not every tool is good in every situation, but every tool has a situation where it works. So thanks for joining me, and remember, look for the principle in the technique and get as many techniques or tools as you can in your toolbox. You'll be a more effective supervisor. Have a great day.